Hello also to everyone. Joy to be with you here today. I'm going to read from Whispers from Eternity. And these are prayer demands and poems by Paramhansa Yogananda. And this one, a little longer than usual, but well worth it, is make me see that I am but an actor in thy cosmic motion picture. Beholding the ever-changing sound and motion pictures of life, I am aware that this turbulent dancing show is only a vast illusion. The tragedies, comedies, and paradoxes of life, the dream of birth and death, the changing scenes and places that surge round us all. All these are nothing but movies designed to engage us in the cosmic illusion. O divine operator, with thy cosmic vibratory light, thou dost show us ever new thrills, a motion picture true to all of our five senses, keeping us amused and entertained through sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch. O magic operator, thy true seeming spectacle beams daily onto the screens of our consciousness. I take it as thy grace that I have chosen to play both tragic and comic parts in thy drama. I am happy to have acted all those parts, both of sorrow and of joy, still. Father, give me now and then a few days of respite from my task. Let me retire to my closet of introspection, stand before my own thought audiences, and behold with laughing heart all the tragedies and comedies I have enacted. Teach me to look upon all that happens in my life with a pleased, interested attitude, that at the end of each episode, no matter how sad or difficult, I may exclaim, "Ah, that was a good show." Full of thrills, suspense, and excitement. I am happy to have seen it, and I have learned much from it for my own benefit. So those beautiful words, I hope, get us into the right flow in consciousness. I couldn't help thinking, the title, Does Satan Exist? I suspect most people wouldn't hear that and think, oh, this is going to be so inspiring. And I suspect there's probably those, hopefully not here, who hearing that stand up and head out the door. They don't want to hear anything about Satan. Are you kidding? But we'll see. We'll see. So I was remembering many, many years ago, Ananta and I were in Northern California in the redwood forest there in the parks, and we were on a hike. And we had decided on this particular day, we had been there many days, to go on a less traveled hike. That meant long, uphill, and probably on our own, which was good. We liked that. And we were on our own until one point. And so we were going along, and being a less traveled trail, no signage, no indication of whether you were really in the right place or not, with trails going off to the left and right and this kind of thing. And we just kept going up. And we found ourselves, again, we were in the redwood forest, so we were on this steep trail and just a straight down ravine on one side for a long distance. And that put the roots of the redwood, the base of the tree, way, way down there. You couldn't see the bottom of the tree. And redwood trees, they're hundreds of feet tall. They're thousands of years old. And so a lot of the trail we were walking along in probably the upper 2/3 or top third and even into the canopy. but you couldn't see much up either because it was so dense up there. And but we were going along and just, you know, looking out. The whole view was these redwoods, and it was awesome. Doesn't begin to describe just the energy of it and the vibration of it, and it was so wonderful. And we got to a certain point near a relative crest, and we'd been entirely on our own, and we sat down and we were just admiring, you know, the trees. And we started, you know, just, these are thousands of years old, and what does that mean? And there's those beautiful words from one of Swamiji's songs, trees standing tall, hold the secret, standing firm, hold the secret to inner power. And just sitting there and letting them reveal the true reality, the true nature of things. And we started to kind of volley back and forth with, this thing happened and this tree was here. This thing happened in history and this tree was here. And we just kept going through these thousands of years and just captivated, swept up in this wonder. When all of a sudden, we started to hear down the trail this mumbling, you know, and finally this man by himself also approached. And he was talking out loud, it became audible now, and complaining about the trail, complaining about the lack of signage, complaining about the rangers who didn't have it together and how the park was really coming up short, and just, you know, just spewing out, you know, all of this information. And we were just like, we were stunned. I mean, he just wasn't aware of the redwoods at all. It was just this trail, and we were just at a loss for words. We couldn't really enter in at where we were at. And I was thinking about it in the context of this topic today, because we all have such different perspectives, don't we? We just come at the exact same thing from completely different angles. And this is really important to remember in life. And, you know, it has to do with our karma. It has to do with what has gone before and who we are and what's made us who we are and what we're sort of carrying along from so many incarnations. And, you know, our karma, the samskars, whatever, it colors our view of the world. It colors our view of the very same thing we're all looking at. And that definitely plays into our perception of reality, how we view the world and how we view ourselves. But as it says in the readings here, thoughts are universally, not individually rooted. Oftentimes Swami would say, Swami Kriyananda would say, that is the most profound thing I've ever heard Master say. You know, it's just thoughts are universally, not individually rooted. Universally rooted because it's embedded in the fabric of creation, vibration, and different qualities, different manifestations of vibration. They exist. And Yogananda explains that their existence is what sustains and perpetuates creation. If there weren't these different vibrations running contrary, running outward, creating, manifesting, and manifesting illusion and delusion, it would all go back to God. It would all merge into God. There would be no creation. And so this force, which Indian tradition calls Maya, Satan is Maya. Satan is that consciousness, that force whose purpose, very purpose, is to move the energy out, move it into matter, move it into illusions that catch our fancy and entertain us and engage us and keep us bound. Keep the play. It's a long, long play. And there's just, many variations to it. It's carried through billions of years. And it's that outward force. And so where do we line up with that? Do we line up with that? What do we do when we do line up with that energy going out, which carries energy down into material consciousness? Well, in the great Indian epic, the Mahabharata, there's a very little part of that big book, which is the Bhagavad Gita. And this is a dialogue between God and his child, Arjuna. Arjuna, everyman. Arjuna represents us, and God is Krishna. And in these little pages is the explanation for everything, if we can understand it. In these little pages, this dialogue, which is captured, for posterity, it all takes place in Arjuna's chariot. Imagine that. You sort of forget that because you get so involved in the... But the whole time that Krishna is talking to Arjuna, Arjuna has asked Krishna to drive his chariot in this great battle that is about to take place. And Krishna is driving the chariot. Arjuna's going to be the one fighting. That's the deal they made. That's another wonderful story. But there they are, and this whole dialogue takes place right there. Now, Swamiji points out, what commanding general in his right mind would position the chariot between two armies? The army of good, the army of bad. Who would do that? Who would put themselves in that vulnerable position? And he points out that that is just one of so many countless indications that this exchange and this story and this epic is also an allegory. So here is Arjuna in this chariot with Krishna, and it's a symbol for the spine of the yogi. It's a symbol for that channel within which our energy resides, and the commitment of that energy, whether it's looking up or looking down and out. And it's all happening right there. And so Krishna has moved the chariot at Arjuna's behest right there between the armies, and there they stand. And this dialogue ensues. And Arjuna is not comfortable there. I mean, he's got Krishna, and he knows our Krishna can help him win, will be key to winning this battle. But it doesn't make it easy. He's not particularly happy, he's confused, he's concerned, he's a little rebellious, but he doesn't get up off that chariot and walk away. He stays there. He stays there for the whole time, question after question after question. He asks Krishna, he gets an answer, he tries to process it, and up comes another, objection, up comes another concern. But he never gets off and walks away. He stays in there. Swamiji, when he talks about perseverance, he says, you think of perseverance as kind of this gritting your teeth and just enduring whatever it is. And he completely shifts that. And he says perseverance just means, essentially it just means staying in the game, staying on the chariot, just like Arjuna, looking at what's going on, taking in the advice, taking in the guidance, accepting that, seeing what one can do, if one can make a shift, whatever you can do to go forward. That's persevering. So that's much more than just gritting our teeth and sitting it out, because nothing's going to happen. Nothing's going to happen when we do that. unless there's a corresponding interchange. And so here's Arjuna, he has a lot of reasons why he could just get up and go, but he has the awareness of the goal. He has the awareness of how he is going to get there, who is going to help him, and that is everything. That is everything. He is willing to listen, willing to try to do what is required. And he's got Krishna. One of my favorite episodes in the life of Saint Francis is when he receives his first brother. He finds his first brother, someone who actually wants to follow along and do what he's doing. Everyone's looking askant and going, "Are you kidding? The guy's crazy." And Francis receives this note from a messenger that comes and finds him in the woods. And it's from Bernard, a man who lives in the town of Assisi. And Bernard writes on this message that he really wants to meet with Francis. There's something important he wants to talk about. And Francis realizes in his heart, he feels this is a real important point for Bernard, and I'm going to go meet with him. And so he goes up to the town of Assisi. He goes to Bernard's home, and Bernard is he's been born into a very noble family, but quite unlike the rest of the family. He's just not, it hasn't made him happy, and he's smart enough to be able to see the difference. And he's got to have something else, and he's really intrigued by Francis. And so he asks Francis to tell him the story of his life. And again, Francis, feeling that this is a pivotal point for Bernard, does just that and tells Bernard the story of his life. And a great deal of time goes by, and it's late now into the evening. And Bernard says, "You can't go home, it's just way too late. Stay here, I'll make up a bed for you and feed you, and etc." So he puts up another bed in his room, and it's time, they're going to go to sleep. Francis is in his bed, Bernard is in his bed, and they're both pretending to be asleep, to go to sleep and be asleep. Each one, for Francis, he's usually up at night praying to God, and Bernard has heard this to be true, and he wants to see if it's true. So Francis pretends to be asleep, and Bernard pretends to be asleep. And when Francis is certain that Bernard is asleep, he gets out of his bed, sits alongside on the floor, and starts to pray, "My Lord, my God, my all." And sometimes he's praying with his hands upraised, sometimes his head is just in his hands, and he's crying out, other times he's singing. But this prayer, sometimes he's just quiet, and it goes all night long. And Bernard is captivated, and he's heart-struck, and he is repeating with Francis in silence every time he says, "My Lord, my God, my all." So this goes on all night long, the both of them. And the sun just starts to come up. Francis gets back into his bed. Bernard, is still that vision of sleep and not seeing or hearing anything. And finally the church bells ring, and they both get up. I get dressed, and Bernard runs over and falls at Francis's feet and says, "Please, please accept me as one of your own." And Francis, of course, does. But Bernard knows he's been on that middle ground within himself. He's there in the center of these two opposing powerful forces. And he knows where he's got to go. And he knows it's not going to be easy to take that step. But he knows that Francis will help him. He knows that that light that exudes from Francis's life and efforts will inspire him and support him in that journey. And this is, again, this was Arjuna. There was much to resist, but he knew that Krishna could walk him through that. Swamiji says, whenever we doubt to drown that doubt in service. And it's not that he's necessarily always talking about outward service, because it has to be that service inside in our meditations. In other words, our self-offering. It has to be that we are really fully giving ourselves to that light, knowing that it can transform us, it will transform us. And so that is especially important to also understand. Swamiji spoke about doubt many times, just the doubt of our own worth, the doubt of our own spiritual progress. It was a big test for him. And one time he was so tested, even in his relationship with his guru, he didn't question Yogananda's consciousness, but he just couldn't always understand what level he was, operating on, and why he was doing the things he was doing in the way that he was doing them. And he said, of all things, it was love for God and love for his guru that got him through, that helped him to transcend temptation, any desire that just wanted to step out of the chariot and run away, just not have to do it at all. And he also said, Yogananda said that in general meditation practice, but he said specifically, Kriya is the greatest tool that we have to transcend present temptation of any kind. In other words, when we, in meditation, for whatever time we can give to it, come into our center, thoughts are universally, not individually rooted. And if we come into that center and find that place in the divine, then our perspective completely changes. And when our perspective changes, our willingness, if we can see the cosmic movie for what it is, even get a glimpse of that perspective, okay, I get it. It's just a part on the stage for a little bit of time, and I can do this. Krishna can help me do this. God can help me do this. I remember one time years ago, while Swamiji was still in the body, and we were celebrating 4th of July, I think it was, or some other similar event, but it was right down there in what we call downtown Ananda, here at Ananda Village. So right there in front of Master's Market, and the whole community, or most of it, was there. And I was seated on one side of the lawn. Swamiji was up very close to the singers, of course. And we were just going along, singing. And now it was an opportunity for us to sing together the song Secret of Laughter. Very joyful, elevated, light song. And we were singing along. And just out of nowhere, truly out of nowhere, to my knowing, this energy, this consciousness just sort of glommed onto me. And I couldn't see straight. I just had, all of a sudden I was in this sort of mood of negativity or something. Gosh, it was bizarre. And I just thought, oh no, where'd this come from? I don't want this. And I just started thinking of Yogananda. I was looking at Swami, and all of a sudden, this song is going on. Everyone is engaged. I have a perfect view to Swami, and he just turns around 180 degrees, looks right at me, smiles, and then turns back. And it was all gone. It was just all, whatever that was, and wherever it came from, some universal cosmic, vibration that just found a place to stick for a moment. And it was just gone. That light just took it away. And I would say that even if Swamiji wasn't there in the body at that time, when we reach out in that way to the light, the thing is, that's a stronger force. Whatever this Maya is, whatever this satanic influence is, it's not as strong as the light. And if we reach out to the light in that moment of awareness, just like Arjuna, that light's going to respond, and that light is going to help us. I want to just close with one thought, because I, as most of you know, at least who are here, pretty much for the month of July, almost a month, I had the opportunity to be up at the meditation retreat, one of my favorite abodes, and with our Living Discipleship group. And it's a beautiful, I just encourage any of you living here or far away to just spend time up there, because it doesn't take much to just, the minute you land on the premises, you just can feel this stillness. And it's a pine oak forest, and I think almost always, even if it's very, very slight, you can hear the wind in the trees. It's a constant. It does not stop. And it's just like Om is moving through that landscape. And when we stop and get quiet enough, you can just hear it. And it's so comforting. It's so soothing. And I was holding that image, and it made me think of those words. For eternity, we have lived in God. We have lived in the divine. It's just a few incarnations, a few lifetimes that we're here in this material universe. And it's important that we seek those opportunities as we can to be enough and strongly enough in that pervading, that ever-present, all-flowing I everywhere, is how Master describes it in his poem Samadhi, to try to be in that vibration at least a little bit so that we get and return to right perspective. We're just here for a brief time. This is not our reality. It's really not our home. We're visitors. And it's just a brief experience on behalf of Divine Mother. She has a lot to do, and she needs instruments. And you, obviously, we're all willing to come and participate. So here we are. But we need to remember that that force of light is stronger. Krishna is stronger. The Om is stronger. And that's our home. That's our reality. And the rest is what it is. And it doesn't really matter. We need to do as best we can, but do our best, the best that we can in God, because we are more conscious of that divine reality that flows through each one of us. Thank you.
This first song is one of Swami Kriyananda's children's songs that we do for you today. Guide me, Lord, throughout this day, in all I do, in all I say. Tell me when I go astray, hold me in thy light.
Help me see that happiness comes not with wanting more,
But less,
teach me all my friends to bless, hold them in thy light.
guide me, Lord, throughout this day, in all I do, in all I say. Tell me when I go astray, hold me in thy light.
Help me see that happiness comes not with wanting more, but less. Teach me all my friends to bless, hold them in thy light. Guide me, Lord, throughout this day, in all I do, in all I say. Tell me when I go astray, hold me in thy light. Help me see that happiness comes not with wanting more, but less. Teach me